Yo, Coach Green back again with another episode of Free Game. Today we're going to continue our discussion on speed and focus in directly on the first portion of speed or the first phase of speed, which is acceleration. All right, so in order to change something or in order to have an effect on it, you have to understand what it is you're working with, what it is you're trying to change, to give you an idea of how you're going to change it, right? So with acceleration, we're going to look at a definition of what acceleration is, and then we're going to apply that to what we're actually trying to accomplish athletically. So we have two formulas for acceleration, right? Two formulas for acceleration from a physics standpoint, right? So acceleration is velocity, your final velocity, minus your initial or starting velocity divided by time, okay? Velocity is just the scientific term for speed, essentially. Our more simple formula for calculating acceleration, and this is all based off of information that you're given on a test or in a scientific environment, anywhere where you're given data where you're trying to calculate anything, right? So our simpler acceleration formula is acceleration change in velocity or change in speed over your change in time. All right, so that's basically how much speed you're accumulating over a certain amount of time. That's all acceleration is. Change in speed over a duration of time. That is acceleration. So applying that to athletic performance, acceleration, right? You're essentially trying to change your speed, increase your speed over the shortest amount of time possible, okay? This could be from a complete standstill or from a static stance, right? If we're running track, we're in a 4-point track stance, 3-point, whatever it may be, 2-point even, right? That's a static stance, and you're trying to get as fast as you can. You're trying to increase your speed as fast as you can in the shortest amount of time, right? That's what we're trying to do. Again, acceleration. So from, let's say, for this particular setup, and either way, it's going to be the same thing. It's just the change, right? The change of velocity and the change of time is what really changes, right? But the principles, nonetheless, are still the same. So with acceleration, you're going to have increased ground contact time. So that's just the amount of time your foot is on the ground. It's still a very short amount of time, right? We're talking, tenths of a second, but it'll be longer. Your feet will be longer on the ground than they would be in your top speed, right? Because we're trying to overcome gravity, right? Starting from a standstill, starting from a slower pace than full speed. So we have to push harder. So that requires us to keep our feet on the ground longer. If we think about exercise, we can compare jumping, right? A vertical jump to a heavy back squat, right? Very similar movements in general, right? Very similar movements, but a heavy back squat, your feet are going to be on the ground longer. They're going to be on the ground the whole time, but your feet are going to be pushing through the ground longer than they would be for a vertical jump, right? Same concept here for acceleration. Increase ground contact time so we can push harder to increase our rate of force, right? How fast we're producing force to get going, okay? And then that also requires us to have a lower body angle. Okay, so as you can see in this little drawing I constructed, and it's obviously not exact, but nonetheless, our body angle will be lower than it would be if we were upright sprinting or top max velocity sprinting, right? We have a decreased angle, so we can push ourselves forward at a better propulsion angle, okay? The best analogy I've heard for this is if you think about someone shooting a cannon. They actually did a test, right? And this was, back when people were still using cannons like that. The cannon that traveled, or the cannonball that traveled the furthest, came out of the cannon that was angled at roughly 45 degrees, right? So that's what we're trying to do with acceleration, right? We're trying to push ourselves out as far as we can and cover as much ground as fast as we can, right? So that requires both horizontal and vertical forces. More horizontal for this from the acceleration angle, but trying to propel ourselves out as far and as fast as we can, pushing as hard as we can. So then when we get upright, right, we're just continuing to carry that on for as long as we can. Okay? So we think about your acceleration angle, right? Your acceleration angle, roughly 45 degrees, depending on how tall you are, your limb length, things of that nature. But simply for this purpose, roughly 45 degrees. And we've heard over the years, myself included, that you want to, especially coming from, if you're coming from a track background, that you want to come out low, right? Come out low and hard, okay? So if you think about what happens if you continue to be told to get lower and lower and lower, it's only so low you're going to be able to lean naturally with good posture, right? Remembering our 3 Ps, with good posture before you actually have to break somewhere to be low, right? So that's why we say 45 degrees roughly, right? 45 degrees roughly. And then from there, based off of your body morphology or how your limbs are set up, then you can manipulate it to fit you best, right? To get the best result possible. Not everybody is going to have the same angle of lean. They're not going to have the same knee drive, not going to have the same arm swing. But generally speaking, the overall guidelines, right, will put us in similar positions. Okay, if we think about Usain Bolt and then Andre DeGrasse, right? Usain Bolt is 6'5". He's taller. He's got at least 4 or 5 inches minimum on every person he races against, right? He's 6'5", but the races he run, he has to come out relatively low. But if you look at a side angle, they're all at generally the same angle, but obviously we're going to see Usain Bolt above everyone else, right? He's still in a lower position relative to his body, but everybody's not going to be the same. So again, decrease body angle, acceleration angle, right? Pushing, propelling ourselves forward as far as we can for as long as we can to build up our top speed, producing as much force as possible in the shortest amount of time, but knowing our feet and our steps are going to be a little bit slower and longer than they would be if we're top speed sprinting, max velocity sprinting, right? Another great analogy I'll leave you with and we'll get rolling is if you think about pushing a vehicle, right? If you've ever had to push a vehicle, if you take short, choppy steps where your feet aren't on the ground that long, you're not going to get much movement out of the vehicle. But if you take longer, harder push steps into the ground, that's what gets the vehicle moving, right? Those longer, harder steps first. Then once it gets moving, then you can kind of really push your feet repetitively at a higher frequency than you were initially. So that's the same thing. That's acceleration in a nutshell, right? Let's get to it. All right, so today, it's a beautiful day in the city of, and I got my trash cleats on because I forgot the good ones. Today, real simple. Again, we're focused on acceleration, not just in our classroom lesson, but also in practice, in our training, right? So we're focused on acceleration. So I got the sled out here. Do some sled sprints, some weighted sled sprints. Get relatively heavy. It's going, got 4 sets, 10 yards. Now I'll do 2 sets of unweighted 15s. Have about minute and a half rest in between each one, roughly. But again, 4 sets, 10 yards, weighted. I'll adjust the weight as we go. Then 2 sets of 15 unweighted. See if we can get some speed. Here we go. following the tier system. Hello. All right. So normally following the tier system template would have been upper body, total body today, following the sprints. However, since I did the weighted sled sprints plus the sprints, I'm gonna skip total body because that is a total body exercise and it's a higher intensity than normal one, because sprinting is already high intensity, and then adding the resistance to it slows down, but the intensity is still high. So I'm gonna skip upper body today, or skip total body today, and just finish up with some upper body accessory work. So still did upper body, total body, but technically flipped it, so it was total body, upper body, but still got the total body work in with the resisted sprints. Let's finish. This one I daydreamed about. So to recap, today we continue our conversation about speed, focused on acceleration and all the things, well, the general things that entail good acceleration, knowing what it is, change in velocity over the change in time, how to make it happen, good acceleration angle relative to your body, increased ground contact time, generating as much force as you can in the shortest time possible. From there, just fine tune the little things, arm action, knee drive, low heel recovery, add some resistance to it to improve the amount of force you're able to produce at that given angle. And going from there. I got 20 more meters. I'll catch y'all next time.